Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of Tenacious V's podcast. This is Julia here, and every week I get to hang out with my best friends, Nona and Kayla, where we get to discuss certain tenacious vixens throughout the centuries. So today we had the opportunity to learn about Jane Colden. Jane was a mother of botany, of herbology, and truly an inspiration to a lot of women and men in modern days and in the past on plant life and flowers. So it was really cool getting to learn this information, dive deep into it. This is something that Nona is really passionate about, and so it made us super happy to see her insights and her knowledge on the subject. We really hope you guys enjoy this episode, and thanks again for tuning in to Tenacious V's podcast.
Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Tenacious V's podcast. I'm pretty particularly interested in this one, and
it's a plant thing, isn't it?
It is.
I knew it. Your face.
I'm super excited. This week we're going to be talking about Jane Colden. What does Kayla know?
Well, I'm thinking she was pretty influential in the plant community. I can't remember the word. What's the word for like plant?
Botany.
Botany.
Botany and horticulture.
Okay. Horticulture. I like that word.
Horticulturist.
I'm guessing she was a botanist.
Yeah.
A good one.
Solid.
Cool. I'm on the right track.
Yeah, dude, she was actually the first female botanist in America.
Wow, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah,
nice.
She was pretty cool. She was born in June of 1722 to Alice Christie Colden, a stern house mother in charge of homeschooling Jane and her 5 siblings. And sorry. And her father was Cadwallader Colder.
Whoa.
Yeah, dude.
Cadwell Adder.
Cadwallader.
Cadwallader.
But he was a physician, and he had all sorts of like things that he was interested. He was into like natural things and philosophy, but he considered himself kind of a novice of botanical knowledge, and so he kind of sought to change that. And he got like a grant from this program he was a part of, and they got this like multiple acres of land, and they lived in the wilderness, when she was a kid. So she like grew up with all the plants, and
I just picture her like in her like colonial white dress, like running through the forest, like singing to the plants. So magical in my mind. I love it.
I think it was a lot more scientific though. She was a lot more like study them.
Yeah,
and, like,
she's just
more like practically
surrounded
minded.
by them, just enveloping them.
Yeah.
So cool.
Her dad started like learning when she was probably like 8 to 10 years old and like studying himself. So then he started like planting them and collecting and studying and pressing leaves and like drawing. And she was actually really good at the drawing part of it. But yeah, she actually started cataloging them on her own, like around the property. And she was like picking them and drawing and studying and like cataloging.
Learning everything about them.
At like 10 to 12 years old.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and she always listened to like everyone that came through. Her dad had like all sorts of influential people, botanists, doctors, all sorts of things in and out of the house all the time. And so she was always listening to like stories that they had about plants and like folklore and medicine.
She's just absorbing all of it at 12 years old.
She was so good at that.
Like, wow, my dad's a loser. She's like, this is the coolest shit.
Yeah, she was so
I need to get in on this.
Her father even wrote letters to like some famous botanists trying to get her like spots to study with them, or
like internships, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Things like that, and then or like seeds or plants or anything like that, samples. And I don't know, she might have gotten some samples and seeds, but she didn't get the most formal schooling she had was by her father. So don't know, dude, but she just learned so much. She just absorbed everything like a sponge, and she was documenting things really well. And her father just wrote that she was like very inclined towards all things in the natural philosophies and natural sciences. And
Mhm. That's awesome.
yeah,
Which ultimately she like does for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
So, but she pursues her passion for plants forever. Her main work is cataloging the plants.
Yeah.
Um, and specifically in New York. And she personally like collected, studied, they written about all of these, and that was like her.
Which is such a
Her
huge,
thing.
important role.
She actually had these really cool like ink drawings she would make. So you would dip the plant like a leaf in ink,
Okay.
and then
So
you would
she's
like
literally like, she's literally like, here's a stamp of this plant. This
Yes.
is what it
she would
looks
more
like.
like paint it,
That's awesome.
so it wasn't like dripping with ink.
right.
Right,
It was like
yeah,
put like a
Yeah,
ink on
and
it,
then
press
do,
it,
like,
and
a
then
press
and then
of
she
it.
would go in and like
That's
put in
so
the
cool.
details.
Wow.
Yeah, and it would get like pressed, and all the veins and stuff would stick out really well.
Yeah,
with ink like
so that whoever like saw her cataloging could know exactly what they were looking
Yeah,
at.
like if you held it up to the sun, that's exactly what you would see.
That's so cool.
Well, not only was that really cool, but she had the most description ever about all these plants. So she would like
She loved them.
yeah. So I mean, it'd be anywhere from like, what does it look like? What does it smell like? What can you eat it? What is it good for?
Mhm.
Things like that.
But it was like she would describe every minute like ridge and speckle and leaf on the or everything on the leaf, and then everything on the stem, and just the flower, the fruit, the how the fruit speckles, how the fruit grows towards the sun,
Jeez.
how the leaves grow in the
Wow.
pattern, everything.
That's beautiful. She really, really, really loved them.
So not only were her like drawings super meticulous and detailed, but she also started describing the plants using a new categorizing, algorithm, I guess you will,
Mhm.
called Linnaeus new method, and added like folklore about the plants, medicinal values. And
Wow.
she listened to anybody who had plant knowledge, like and kind of accumulated all that over the years, and then she would like input that information into her cataloging. So she used like different uses in different cultures too. So it'd be anything from like Italian culture and Dutch culture, Irish, Native American cultures, and she would take all of the stuff she'd learned about all these plants and then she'd put them in like her catalogs.
That's so awesome.
So the work, she doesn't really have like a title for it, but it has over 300 plants within like this
That
book.
she personally found, took specimens of, cataloged, wrote
And
a
in the
description.
detail that she did it.
Everything.
That's a life's work right there.
Yeah, she like drew them, did the ink pressings of a lot of them. She personally drew images of over 340 of them.
Oh my gosh. Jeez Louise.
She found a few new species, actually, like quite a few that hadn't been like given a Latin name yet and just had like folk names. And she sent them off to other botanists a few times and horticulturists to see if like they could help further study and classify them. And the naming situation of botany was just like really fucking weird at the time. Like you had to get like permissions from the Botanical Society, the High Botanical Society, or
The
like,
kings of flowers.
Yeah.
yeah,
Flower
essentially.
kings.
But if you like named it and then there was another plant that was too close to that name, you like couldn't do it. Or like if another person named it like a couple days before you or something, like the rights
Too
were
bad,
like
so sad.
yeah, they were like really respective of like the first person that did it, kind of.
Right.
But it was just really weird. But like also at this time before the Linnaeus category
New naming process.
well, it's like so he broke it down further into like species and families and genus, and he broke it down into all the different levels, because before it was just like this plant looks like this plant because they both have flat leaves,
This looks like an ivy. Sure.
And then they're like the Latin names for them was fucking crazy. Like it was literally just like a description of that plant in
just
Latin.
in Latin. Yeah.
So the word, do you want to hear the word for flax?
I'd love to.
It was Linum raris folisque alternus lamirilanceolatus radici annua.
That is so many words.
That's what I'm
for
saying.
Flax.
flax. And then so Linnaeus took it and it was like 2. He made it like 2 words and it was like the genus and the species, I believe.
I think, yeah, it's like, well, I don't know how plants work, but I know for like
genus?
animals and insects, it's like the species and then the classification.
Yeah, so
of
then
them.
it's the same for the plants. But he just like made that a thing and then made like a way to formally do it and everything.
Not have 10 words in your name for a plant.
Yeah. But there was also kind of an issue because like Latin was not taught in America at this time at all. Like learned languages weren't a thing in America.
Right.
So it was just kind of a big deal that none of these botanists knew any of the plants. So her dad actually wrote the first.
That's how it is now. Sorry.
Et linum muum.
That's flax now?
Yep.
I was curious.
It's much better than whatever you said.
Sorry, I totally derailed your whole.
You're good. No. They changed it to something else between the times. Like it was something else when Linnaeus switched it, but I don't remember what it was. But her dad actually wrote the first like large catalog of native flora of New York in English with like translations and everything, so that everyone could read it and like common people could get more into it.
Right.
So
I'll just look at that and be like, well, that's a neat name.
Like,
no clue why, but all right.
Good luck with that.
Yeah.
But her father was also like the very first person that backed the Linnaeus system like really hardcore. Like he was all about it. He was getting other people all about it. He was getting like interest and just like supporting it super hard and making like all of his classifications using his system. And then so Jane obviously grew up studying that, so she was really into it too. And it was like a whole, it's like a whole thing. But it was super cool. They were, it was like a cute little family.
It is, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, what a cute little like father-daughter bond to be out there studying plants, like going out. She's like 7, 8 years old, walking out to the fucking forest backyard with her daddy-o and getting specimens and her little tiny magnifying glass, like it's so
little
cute.
jars of plants,
and
drying them, and
I love it so much.
Yeah, he loved it so much that she was so into it, and he saw how good she was at everything. So he got her really involved within the plant community, and she ended up being looked up to by like plant geniuses like Peter Collinson, Alexander Gardenia is named for him, and John Ellis, and then she and all 3 of them and other fellows in the Royal Society were pleading with Linnaeus and like the board to let them like to get a plant named after her.
Oh wow.
And they didn't do it.
They didn't fucking do it, dude.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it never happened. There's no plant named after Jane Colden.
Well, now I'm pissed. I was so excited for like what it was gonna
let's
be.
Let's go get her flower.
Yeah, let's go plant it. Oh no. Also, Garden is a pretty convenient last name.
I know.
Like what the fuck? What?
Do you think that's why they called it a garden?
I don't know. I kind of do.
Like he was the one that started off like let's have multiple things in a single area.
Plant a garden.
No, because gardens were a thing way, way back in France and England.
Well, but it would be like in a different sense of like
no,
small farm, like a.
No, back into like the 1600s, they had like gardens, like an herb garden or like a little tiny vegetable, like a garden.
But that's what I'm saying. But it was like just like a self-sufficiency thing versus like now where it's like, oh, look at my garden. I just enjoy growing this variety of flowers, or this is my pumpkin garden.
Rich people in castles have had gardens in like France and England.
I know. I just don't know if they called them gardens.
Well, what do you think, listeners?
Yeah, I don't know.
You guys know the origin of the garden.
Message us.
What do you even think about it? The Garden of Eden. I think it's just a coincidental, very badass name.
Yeah, I mean, it's very lucky for him. It really is. It makes sense. Well,
he like took his fate and he ran with it, man.
Yeah, he did. But no, I'm fucking pissed she doesn't have a plant named after her.
Yeah.
She sounds way more dedicated than I've ever been to anything in my entire life.
She did name a lot of plants, though, and she's credited with it.
She never named one after herself.
Well, she tried to. She sent one in. She sent a plant that she had found and tried to. And they were like, no.
Nah, bruh.
No. So they named it something else. And she actually, that happened a few times, and they were not accepted just because, like, a similar name already existed, or they were just like, no, we want to go with this. Or, oh, somebody else already found that, and they called it this in this book, like, 2 years ago.
Ugh.
Something like that.
It's annoying. Must have been frustrating.
There's, like, a whole bunch under that classification, under the, like, original, like, versions of the classification system. Like, right after that came out, there's all sorts of books and manuals and stuff about plants that are written by other people, where, like, because of the rules of the society at that time, they had to credit the person that first named the plant and first put it in that classification. So her and her father and, like, many other people like them that went out and, like, classified plants and did all that work in the beginning, like, are credited in those books.
So she still got credit where credit was due. That's good.
I mean, she
Sorta.
did, but, like, it kind of sucks because she didn't really get any credit until after she passed away.
I hate that shit so much.
Yeah.
She made some, like, of the most, like, biggest and badass contributions to the world of botany and naturalism. And she even influenced, like, all of her, like, male, well, I guess, and female, but mostly male peers, and helped them with, like, their growth and knowledge and everything. And she was even, like, so revered by her colleagues that she was considered the first botanist, female botanist of America.
That's
huge. Like, a pretty big title. It's pretty big.
Two of the guys I mentioned earlier, like the John Ellis and whatever Garden.
And Andrew Garden.
Alexander.
It was an A name.
But
Garden.
Two of them were, like, corresponding in a letter, and they wrote about
Alexander.
Oh,
nice. Good job, Nona.
Thanks. But one of them wrote to the other how Colden's daughter has a great passion for plants, and she's so intelligent or something, and she's the first female ever to endeavor in anything like this, and they were just, like, super impressed with her. And
that's awesome.
It's pretty cool that other people were just writing back and forth, because most of her writings and letters are gone besides her notes.
Wow. Yeah, it's just like having people talk so highly of her behind her back. She had no idea. That's awesome.
Right. I mean, and it didn't really come out until, again, after she passed away. Kind of sucks.
It does suck, but at the same time, the thing that, like, makes me feel better about it is that, like, even though they weren't getting the recognition at the time, like, they still just kept fucking doing it. Like, it wasn't about that. It wasn't about fame. It wasn't about, publishing books or whatever. It was like, this is my life's work. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to contribute.
I dig it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, it sucks that they didn't get that while they were alive, but every time I do hear those stories, I'm just like, but you know what? They just kept fucking doing it. It's awesome.
Dude, she was even getting criticized quite a bit. But, like, people were saying that her drawings weren't that great because they were, like, ink wash drawings. So it wasn't, like, incredibly detailed like her prints were.
I was going to say, but also a lot of them were literally the plants.
Yeah.
So, like, how would they say
that's
not detailed enough?
She only had, like, inks of the leaf and maybe the stem sometimes. In her drawings would be, like, the leaf and the stem, but she didn't really include the fruits or the flowers. So a lot of people criticized that aspect, and just kind of how, like, it was just, like, a tone, like a monotone, like, wash and not color and stuff. But
people want to pizzazz.
Yeah, whatever.
To be more. But her descriptions were always pretty revered because you don't
need a picture if she describes it that
you
good.
can paint it yourself.
Yeah, from her descriptions alone.
I mean, other than being just, like, super involved in the plant world, I mean, she did have a personal life, too. She got married to Dr. William Farquhar in 1759.
Lord Farquhar!
Dude, can I spell this name? Spell it for them, dude.
Farquhar.
Farquhar. I had to ask my mom, and apparently she went to high school with the dude that had that name.
Oh, no shit.
She was like, Scott Farquhar. And I was like, thanks, Scott. Really helped me out
today.
You're
out there, Scott Farquhar.
We appreciate your name.
Brought to you by you. Thanks.
Sorry, like you guys are having fun and it's about to get really dark.
Oh, why do you always do this to me? Every time I'm like, man, this is good. I feel good about this. You guys are like, and then that word, you're about to say it. Unfortunately. Fuck!
So, she gets married.
Unfortunately.
Dr. Farquhar. And it kind of like ends her botanical career. Not like you're done or like I'm possessive or something, but like more she just kind of was like into her husband
on just her marriage.
And she was still doing like things, you know, you can presume that she was still doing things for herself and like her own shit and learning and reading and cataloging whatever for herself. But she did end up having a daughter 7 years later in 1766. However, unfortunately, Jane dies during childbirth. And unfortunately,
her kid died.
Her child dies about a year later.
Oh my god! From what? Why?
I actually don't know. A lot of the writings were destroyed.
It's from the 1700s.
I know, that's a long time. It's a long time for some paper to live.
Well, and then after her death, many people started taking on the system developed by Linnaeus and writing books on the plants using classification.
Like, it became way more popular because her and her dad.
Yeah. Because she was like, oh man, this shit was really cool, and like, it sucks, dude, she's dead, and like.
And they made it accessible in America in that system, you know.
Mhm.
So they brought it to light in America too. That's so cool, man. Her husband must have been the saddest dude.
I mean,
probably.
Like, I would think so.
It's really sad news, guys.
You would imagine.
But eventually, like, you know, when it's all said and done with, she's like revered as one of like the top ladies in the botany world, and her and her father are given a lot of credit for like changing the system and kind of changing that, you know, and making names to the two, the Genesis and the genus.
The Genesis.
I just wish I knew more about this stuff. But
it is really fascinating, but that's why we have Nona, because she tells us all about it, but we don't have to dedicate like our time in our lives to actually doing it. So we get the benefit, but we don't have to watch all these plants die because we don't know how to take care of them.
Right.
Well, I just can't do it.
She like didn't even make a name for herself until after she died. She was usually referred to like her dad's daughter, you know, Dr. Blair.
So the Linnaeus system is actually still used today, but it's only applied to living things now and not like minerals and stuff like that.
Okay, I was like, what does the name change when it's dead? Like, what? That just confused the shit out of me when you said that. Like, when the plant dies, it becomes blah, blah, blah. What? Okay, now I get it now.
I wonder if that ever does happen, though.
I don't know.
If the chemical constituents change enough.
I don't know, man.
But her contributions to the furtherment of plant classification and study are still actually like resonating today. Because had her father not been a pioneer of the system, she might not have been inspired to pursue her career the way she did.
Mm-hmm.
And like many people around her would have been like lost out on her, basically, her expertise and her knowledge and the writings she did.
Well, and I mean, to be honest, like
a bar.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, not only she might not have been as inspired, like she had a lot of connections through her dad, and her dad was a really big part of her being able to like have the experiences that she did and be able to meet and work with these other botanists and these other people. I like people that were influencing botany at the time is like I couldn't think of the right way to say it, but you know, he had those connections and he had those big dinners that she got to sit in on, and so her dad was a huge part of that. That's so cool that she had that opportunity.
And had such a great role model too.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, and I mean, as badass of whatever you are, however good you are at what you do, like if you don't have that start to your life to promote that, you're just you're gonna struggle a lot more to get there. So it all lined up for her.
Yeah.
And she made the most of it, and that's so good. Because she could have been like, whatever, Dad, I like punk rock and PBR. I don't want to be in your plant meetings.
Called out, Kayla.
This is the only thing I could think of. You know, she could have just not been into it.
Yeah.
And she full throttle was like, nope, I'm gonna make a name for myself. Super cool.
And doing the thing I love.
Yeah, doing the thing that she loves.
We're actually super lucky that the nameless notes survived, because almost none of her writings and stuff survived because of the Revolutionary War.
Mm-hmm.
But someone actually, a soldier, saved her notes and took them back to England, where they still remain in a museum today.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So,
Good
thank you,
foresight for
soldier.
him.
We appreciate that.
I always think about that stuff, like, you know, during the war, because
just anyone who saves knowledge during a war,
like whoever's in the middle of that
important.
turmoil and just has that, like who knows if he even knew what it was? Like, he probably
Like,
just was like,
oh, these are some
in
cool
the home, like,
pictures.
you know, like, maybe their home got destroyed. I don't know, but, like, just being amongst the wreckage and just, like, focusing on staying the fuck alive and seeing a notebook and going, hey, this might be important. I should keep this. Like,
yeah, dude.
It's just a really, really, really important thing, and I'm so glad so many people have done that.
I think it's amazing. I think that's, like, the best thing that it has been done during war. Like, war is horrible, but, like, saving the knowledge is so important.
Well, and especially way back then, when
so much knowledge got destroyed.
Everything was so dispersed. Like, if your village, if your colony, if your town got burned to the ground or got attacked, especially during, like, the Civil War, oh well, too bad, so sad. Like,
right.
No one around is, you know, you're not gonna, sorry, my words are jumbled, but what I'm trying to say is, like, holding on to that from fucking town to town until the end of the war, because, like, once one place is destroyed, oh well, it's miles and miles and miles and miles of nothing. Everyone's pretty fucking isolated at that time.
Right.
So being able to, like, pull together and have this collective of, like, we saved all this knowledge is so fucking important. It's so cool.
It is.
Took a lot of effort.
Yeah, I mean, so did making that manuscript. Like, imagine how long it took to catalog. I mean, like, it's got to be almost 400 plants. And the medicinal uses, like, everything.
That's insane.
And then also being like, oh, I should add that, and then going back from something you looked at, like, a year ago.
It's just so different now, like, because now you can just, like, put it in the cloud. And, like, your house burns down, some tragedy happens, tornado hits. Well, yeah, that fucking sucks. That's shitty, but all your life's work is fine. It's in the cloud somewhere.
Like, your pictures,
it's on some person's hard drive somewhere out in the world. It'll be fine. But, like, back then, anything happens.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. You're going on a fucking excursion and you misplace your notebook. Well, everything you've worked for the last 2 decades is gone. It's just crazy. It's sad.
Think about how much stuff we're missing out on, like,
I know, I always think
today.
about that. Like, everything that has been lost.
Has been, like, destroyed on purpose.
Mm-hmm. Hide it. It's a conspiracy.
Conspiracy.
It's a conspiracy! Yeah, I don't know. It makes me sad. I think about that stuff a lot.
We don't want to let people know gluten's actually good for them.
Oh, no!
Hide the manuscript!
Oh, no! Kale's actually poisonous. Don't eat it.
Kale is actually poisonous.
We know because somebody destroyed one of her pages. She wrote it down, I promise. No, but that is really cool that we do have what we have from her.
So I always think about in the 1700s, like Victorian era, like 1700s to like 1800s, especially women who were educated at home. Like, I know not all of them, and not even like a lot, but some of them got to just like learn kind of whatever they wanted. Like her, like she just literally studied botany her entire life.
Right.
So like, sorry about my dog scratching at the door, y'all. They're a little ridiculous. But, so if you could like go to school in that way, where you just kind of like dedicate your life, like you don't have to worry about money, you don't have to work, like you're just like living off of someone else's money for
study or
like 5 to 10 years.
My life would have been so different.
Well, but like right now, like if you could go into this right now, like don't have to worry about money, you've got a place to live, everything's set.
Oh man,
like, what would you study?
That's the dream. Man, I don't even know. At that point, I would feel like I have so many options. Like I would just not even know where to start. Because there's just, I don't know, there's a lot of shit I've always wanted to like buckle down and learn about. But I think mine would be world language. I think I'd want to get fluent in like 5 to 7 languages and just study that.
10 years.
Yeah, I could if I had like that kind of life.
Like if you took time, you just
if I had nothing else to do, absolutely.
Well, especially because you can just like often just travel and
and just pick it up, and that's if I didn't have to worry about it, and I could just like all of a sudden go, you know what, I'm moving to Greece this year.
I'm learning Greek this year.
I'm learning Greek, and then maybe next year, you know what, like
Spain.
Maybe I'm gonna go like to Turkey.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you want to learn about their cultures too, or just?
Oh no, absolutely. But that's why I would want to study world language, is to like be able to facilitate communication between cultures and like be able to preserve that. And that was like, I'd say if I had a different life, that'd be my ultimate dream in life, is to be like maybe like a UN ambassador or something.
Oh, that'd be
like
so cool.
Somebody that can facilitate those communications and stuff like that. You know, like kind of just bridge culture gaps. And honestly, like world language is just such an amazing thing. It fascinates the fuck out of me how really all around the world, all these people just started, you know, making noises that only the people around them understood, and it developed into the complex fucking languages we have now.
Yeah.
But we're still in a place where there's still so many different languages, and you can get on a flight for a few hours and go somewhere you have no idea what anyone's saying. It's a totally different everything. It's just it'd be cool to be able to be a part of. A lot of them.
A lot of herbalists are trying to do that and bring cultures together and bridge gaps through like ancient plants and medicines and stuff like that.
That's really cool, and I feel like that's kind of what she did.
Yeah,
because she
just did local New York flora,
but she took like the different like cultural views on like the medicinal qualities of it, because that's what interests me, is like thinking about, was it pretty much the same from culture to culture? Did people like notice the same things about this plant? Or was it like everybody used it for kind of a different thing, you know, something like that? But
I feel like usually probably similar things, because the effects you notice the most are going to be generally the same effects from things. But I think it was more so like each culture knew about a different plant.
Yeah.
That they have then brought to America, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know, Julia, what would you study?
I think that I would honestly, there's two things that I would want to pursue. One would be I'd want to learn as many instruments as I could. Like I'd want to learn guitar, I'd want to learn like saxophone,
I would love that.
The flute, you know, piano. So I'd like to learn as like many instruments, but also I'd want to get really into like the culinary world. Like I'd want to like learn to cook myself, bake, you know, do desserts,
that'd be cool.
All of it, and then also like travel around and learn how other people, you know, use like the same spice or something.
Yeah, that's what amazes me about culinary, is like if I studied it, I want to get to a point where I just understood the chemistry of cooking so much and enough to where I could just be like, these are the ingredients I'm using. I know exactly how to make up a totally new fucking cake or dish and not have to like Google on my phone like, okay, so how long do potatoes need in the oven versus asparagus? Like, put them on the same pan.
Right.
I
think more so like it can kind of incorporate both of those together too. Like, go out and you know, like play music maybe to like gain more money to pursue culinary or vice versa. I don't know. That's kind of just, music's always something that's fascinated me, and it's like something that never came like super easy to me.
Yeah.
Like I can play like read piano just fine, but like it was hard, yo. And I've always been in like really athletic, so it's like that all really came easy to me, and music was something that I just couldn't grasp that like my two siblings can, which I just think is so cool. Like I just didn't have a creative mind like that. So
that would be cool.
I think it's because it would be hard is why I'm more intrigued by it.
Right.
Like I have a guitar. Every time I pick it up, I'm like,
I
forgot everything I've ever learned. I've learned the same chords.
I'm gonna say with my flute. I'll like pick up my flute every few weeks. Like, well, yeah, I could totally like want to do this again. And I just sit there and I'm like, I did this for 8 years.
Yeah.
For 8 years, and I took 5 5 years off, and now I totally have to relearn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It goes so fast.
It does.
What about you, Nona?
Ooh. Ooh.
So I would learn about plants, herbalism, just like the science part, the hippie part, all of it, just everything, the shaman medicine values, how to just distill medicine, all of it.
We would just like come visit you in your like little mansion, and it would just be like encompassed in vines. You would like have to like walk through this forest when you walk inside.
It'd be so cool.
And you just like find you like sipping tea.
I'd be like the brown wizard in Lord of the Rings, you know? That like he has like birds in his hair and lives in the tree, and he's just like throwing things together.
Oh my god, I could totally see it. That's great.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome though, to be able to dedicate, like in the way she did, like dedicate your life to that.
Yeah.
I wish that was your life. I wish that for you.
Thank you.
I really do.
I'm gonna make it
But
happen.
you make enough money to
I know.
do it. You
Just
know.
do what you want.
I will one day.
Just do what you want to do.
Them Denver housing prices, y'all are
They're out of
stupid.
control. They're out of
Through the
control. None of us. I'm not gonna be a world language connoisseur. You're probably not gonna be a culinary / instrument connoisseur. You're probably not gonna be a botany connoisseur unless we all move to
Nebraska.
Yeah, we can all move to like
Move in with Chelsea.
to Scottsbluff, and we'll be fine.
It is just too expensive to live out here and pursue any sort of hobby, y'all.
Yep, it's real.
But we want to know what you guys would study. Like, what would you guys dedicate your life to?
Or what you do already. What do you do?
What have you dedicated your life to?
How do you have a really cool hobby and work? Because we need to know.
Thanks for tuning in.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed that, you should give us a follow on Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon. You can find us at Tenacious Bees Podcast. As always, this was spoken, edited, and recorded by Nona, Kayla, and Julia. All the music has been done by Denver rapper Staple Milk. See you next time. Thanks for stopping by.